Take my hand, oh Abba Father, show me what you say. Guide me from within my spirit, I will let you lead.
What is going on, y'all? Sorry, I'm just having a little struggle with the getting the camera to work. She was not wanting to cooperate. Okay, so today I was thinking about just doing a little simple beach painting. Nothing extravagant, just something small. That way I could get completely rolling and actually paint for y'all because I know the past couple few days I haven't been painting. And I've been super busy filling out all sorts of paperwork. I know that excuses, but today we are going to paint. So get your materials ready and let's start once we get this completely cleaned up. So one thing I wanted to mention to y'all is I took a very specific scene. I actually had a conversation with Donovan yesterday, right after the stream, after I gave y'all the tour, and we were talking about, what paintings would probably be best for advertising in my personal local area, and that would be specifically daytime beach paintings. And I was like, I would have thought like sunsets would have been a good thing because I know a lot of the people around here like sunsets. But there's a certain color scheme of the daytime. If you can get it down, it looks really nice. Is where you use a lot of phthalo blue, use emerald greens, and there's a lot of like milky white colors. Like some of my past paintings, like maybe two or three of them, have the exact color scheme that I'm talking about, and I'll be able to show you all that another time. But if you go onto my web or my art page, it's all there. I'd say probably my three most detailed beach paintings are the ones that have that color scheme. I spent a great deal of time on each of them, and I was working with a reference photo on all of them. So I'm going to start using reference photos at least once a week on paintings, just so I can have the practice on looking at the colors and really getting the details down. Because otherwise, yeah, they still look amazing, and I absolutely love them. But I think it would be more beneficial and helpful for me to actually look at a reference photo, get the difference between the color schemes, even though I don't like looking at photos and copying and pasting. But it's good practice. I'm not going to take away from that. So if you've never used a reference photo, it makes a huge difference. Like it just helps you differentiate between colors and shadows and stuff. It really does change the way you look at paint or look at things. Right now, I forgot to clean up after the last painting that I finished, which was that river painting that I'm going to submit over to Texas. But man, I keep procrastinating it. So one thing I would like to bring up is the sole fact that reference photos and details go kind of hand in hand if you're not used to painting in detail. Like just to help you with color schemes, to look at different shapes and form. So if you're trying to do that, I know that several really skilled artists have different objects around their room, and I actually do have some photos and stuff around the room, but they have different objects and different pictures of different objects. Like we'll say, for instance, the moon, or we'll say a cow, because a lot of Texas painters like to paint cows. They'll have like a cow figurine just to see the shape and different angles. They'll have one lying down, they'll have one standing up, with his head up, with his head down, you name it. They'll have all sorts of different shapes and forms for them, and different reference, not even necessarily photos, but figurines, and even like rope, so you can get texture down. Because texture is also huge. Trying to mimic texture with paint. And the good thing about that, whenever you're trying to mimic texture, is you can get a lot more details by really looking closely at the object. And I realize I do not have my white lights on. Give me one second. There we go. So if you don't already do that, I want to encourage y'all, find different objects that you like to paint or that interest you, and different photos of different objects that you would like to paint, and have them in your studio, just ready for whenever you're about to paint, so you can reference it if you're having a hard time just kind of making it up off the top of your head. It really does make a huge difference. And without further ado, gotta find my other palette knife. Where did I put that thing? Oh, you know what? I put it in the other room. I'll be right back. Yeah, you're welcome, Jennifer. I saw your comment. Well, darn. Oh, here it is. I'm a goof. I have found it. All right, so right now I'm actually going to be pulling it up, my reference photo, and be working off of the reference photo. As a matter of fact, it's not even turned sideways, it's turned upwards. It's just a little bitty one, just an 8x10, nothing big. Just something for y'all to grasp a hold of the concept with. If I can get this thing turned on my face and painting. Here we go. There we go. All right. Now let's see. I'm gonna scrape off that white because I don't need it. It's got pink in it. So the one that I'm working with, I'm gonna show y'all here shortly. Take y'all down from the stand. I'm just working from my computer. There's a little reference photo. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a little beach scene with real muted colors. But this is popular over in Panama City where I live. So that's what I'm going to be working with. I'm going to see if I can't get this thing to prop down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so the colors that you're going to need for this is medium yellow, phthalo blue, which I've already got a little bit on there, so probably shouldn't need too much of that. Maybe ultramarine blue, we'll see. And then you'll need some crimson, just a little bit, not much. Because we've got the sky, which takes up the majority of it, probably about like this much. We've got maybe a little bit under 2/3. And then it's got a nice sand dune right here with the beach kind of curling around it. And then just a little bit of the ocean showing. Big prevalent sky. It's kind of muted. And muted just means like soft colors. And that's what we're going to be working with. And I think I'm just going to still work with the palette knife just to see how I can turn it out. So the first line of business, we're going to start with the sky. And the sky's got a bunch of purple. As a matter of fact, it looks like 95% of it is purple, and then maybe some toned back greens. I'm not going to be painting for too long today because I've been filling out paperwork since almost 2 in the morning. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night, and then I went back to sleep and still didn't sleep that much, so I'm pretty tired. But we'll get something in. Here we go. All right, so we got our white. You get a little bit of phthalo blue on the white. And I completely forgot to mix crimson in here. Here we go. Just get a tiny bit of crimson every time you pull out crimson from the tube because it dries super fast. And if y'all wouldn't mind sharing out the broadcast for me, that would be awesome. Now remember, we're trying to get that lavender color. The lavender color is basically a purple, but it's more towards the blue side, and it's very faded, or more muted and soft. So it's a lot of white, more blue than crimson. And you want to use phthalo blue. And you don't need a whole bunch of phthalo blue either, because you're trying to keep it more towards the white side and the blue side. If you ever find it's too warm, you just keep adding a little smidges of blue here and there once you get the chance. All right. So I've been thinking about working on, or actually starting to do kind of like Bob Ross does, and just have 25-minute episodes where I just whip out little paintings as fast as I can. Let me know what y'all think about that, because I might start doing it just to practice painting a certain subject really fast over and over. And practice makes perfect, and it also builds your confidence and your speed, which is huge when you're painting. Now, it doubly helps when you got Holy Spirit painting with you, but I want to emphasize the practice. When you put in the effort, it will pay off. Put in the time, put in the effort, it pays off. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on there just as a tester trial, which it looks all right, but it needs to be a little bit more white than it is. And one thing I realized a little bit too late is I probably should have had a little bit more paint than I did. So whenever you're painting, it's good to have big amounts of paint, which I'm slowly starting to realize. Big amounts of paint on your palette instead of small ones like I have right here, little tiny bits. So you can spend less time mixing and more time just kind of using. How do I explain this in a simple way? So we'll say you've got one medium color. If you wanted to stay that color but different shades, you can use like blue as your shadow color and then white as your lightening color or brightening color. And you can basically treat it like a pencil at that point. That's kind of how I think about it, because I used to do a lot of pencil drawings before I started painting. And what I figured was, if you treat it like a pencil drawing, all you have to do is have two different colors you work with most of the time. There are some exceptions where you have different warm shadows and cool shadows. But in a nutshell, you can use like two different colors, one to brighten the medium color and then one to darken, and treat it like a pencil drawing at that point. And then just place it on there. All right, let's get a little bit more white on here. There we go. I think about those two colors are good. And if we want it darker, we'll just add blue. Just a smidge. Don't even have to add too much. So, a cool thing that happened today, I actually got to call one of my old mentors just to check up on him, see how he's doing. And he didn't pick up, but his son picked up. And that was pretty cool. I got to talk to him and find out where he's actually working now. Turns out he's not working in the um, same area they used to in Georgetown, Texas. Now they moved to a different road, which is closer to where my mom's friend is. So she's going to pay him a visit once that's over with, and then ask about palette knives and different ones to buy, because he started painting with palette knives, and he kind of inspired me to paint with them because his recent paintings just looked real, and they were with palette knives, and I was really impressed with it. So hence why I kind of do it myself, and the textures just kind of impressed me. And you can't always get those textures with paintbrushes. That's one thing that you need to realize. You can't always get that with your paintbrushes unless you just really load up your paint. Okay, that's a little bit more blue. So right now I'm just kind of putting the darks on first. And it's not going to make sense to y'all, more than likely, what I'm doing, just because you don't see the reference photo. Eventually I'll have like 2 or 3 cameras going on at once, so y'all can see my reference photo, y'all can see my palette, my face, and my canvas. Long-term goals. Ooh, yeah. And one thing you can do is take, we'll say I've got 2 different shades of color right here. Same colors, just different amounts of white. You can take 2 of them and mix them together if you want to take like a slightly shaded version of one color or like a medium version. Just take them and mix them together and then plop it down. Just ideas, little techniques and little tips that you can use in the future, or you can disregard them, either way. All right. My goal is just to basically teach you all the techniques that you need to know and for you to run with them, because that's how I learned. Some people learn just step by step. I learned by, yes, learning all the steps, but then applying what I knew so that it really stuck. It's a type of hands-on learning. So right now I'm just mixing up a kind of warmer color so that I can add it up to the top. One thing you should know, reds are typically foreground colors and blues are background colors, like further away. So that's why when I was saying earlier, go with your darkers first and working top to bottom. Typically, when you work top to bottom, you're going to be able to paint all that's in the front first, or all that's in the back first, and then hit whatever's out in the front afterwards. Because right about here, we'll say imaginary line, is when the middle ground starts appearing, which is where the ocean is. And then you got your beach right up here around the corner. I'm trying to underlay some shadows right over here. The good thing about putting your shadows on first is that you can put your highlights right over the top of them and it gives it immediate shape. Now you can work backwards and put your highlights first, but I highly recommend going dark to light first because it's harder to get the original color. Okay, 1 second. So warmer is closer most of the time, yes. Like when we'll say, for instance, with clouds, typically when you look at clouds, the furthest away, the ones that are furthest away are more towards the blue side, and then the closer ones are more towards the red side. Even if they're all kind of like white in your mind, they're actually not white. They're reflecting like different blues and reds. You just gotta pay closer attention. You'll see right now, whenever you start going out now, since I've told you this, you'll start noticing, oh, wait a second. He was right. There's a very small hint of lavender in that cloud, even though it looks white to most people. Or you'll notice, oh, wait a second, it looks slightly towards the red side, just a little bit more red than blue in the shadows. It happens. Like during the daytime, it happens often. So typically, your close-up shadows are going to be really, really dark, and most of the time, your darkest shadows in the close-ups are going to be cooler, like blues. But at night, it's the opposite, which surprised the crap out of me. Um, my mentor, Virginia, she told me that when I was studying nighttime scenes, the shadows are warm. Keep them towards the crimsons and browns and stuff, like warmer colors. It really surprised me when I started looking at shadows at night and pictures of shadows. I was super surprised to find that she was absolutely right. Okay, let me get this a little bit more white. Oh, goodness. That's a lot. So right now what I'm doing is I'm kind of mixing in little bits of purple towards the red side and then purple towards the blue side, or lavender towards or lavender, which is purple towards the blue side, and then purple towards the red side. I'm not sure what color you call that. Maybe like a violet or like a very soft violet or something. I don't know. But I'm kind of changing up the flavor just a wee bit here and there. Just in areas that are not getting light. Closer one gets more crimson or more red. The further away, they get more blues. And it's okay if you got them really dark at first. You can always go back and add more white and milk it up. But just be careful about how much you milk it up, because it's harder to make it a pure color than it is to milk it up, which means just adding white. Adding white is easy, but going back to that original pure color that you had beforehand, that's kind of a lot more difficult. You have to strip it off and then just put it right back over the top. So just a little helper for you. Start with those pure colors. With less white, so you can get all of those profound shadows in first. Then you can just gradually add white if you want to. This is just one technique you can use. You can have it already pre-mixed on your palette. That's one method that's taught that I recommend if you're just starting off. Just having your colors pre-mixed and kind of checking them. And in another episode, I can show you all how to make a color checker. Color checkers are useful. Oh, excuse me. Super dark right there. And another thing I want to mention, you can actually use yellow, just like this much, just this much, if you wanted to. You could put it into the purples. It won't make too much of a difference, but there will be a subtle change in color. It'll be, as long as you keep it relatively the same value. It actually does add to the flavor just a little bit. It keeps it from complete monotony. One second, I see a tip. Disregard. Alrighty. I'm going to call it for tonight. We'll be on tomorrow around 6 p.m. And one thing I would like to do is have a guest speaker on tomorrow, if at all possible, but that might not happen. Just depends on what his schedule is. Just have someone out there painting with me. Yeah, just to wrap this up real quick, the techniques that I've been teaching are just mixing all on your palette, working top to bottom, darkest to light, and having one medium color that you work with, and then kind of use like blue to kind of darken it, and then use like white to brighten it up just a little bit. Treating it like almost like a pencil drawing, just teaches you different value or different perspectives on value and shades. It ultimately does make a huge difference. You know, I actually realized that y'all probably can't see this painting too well. That's kind of goofy of me. I'll get y'all up a little bit closer so y'all can see what's taking place on this. So there are actually a lot of yellows on here too. Let's see if I can get you closer. Sorry, I am sitting right on top of this thing. Goodness. Here we go. So I added a bunch of blue, like purples everywhere. And then somewhere in the middle, I accidentally added yellow, but I kind of rolled with it because it looks pretty nice. And it doesn't have to be completely monochromatic, which just means one color. And right here is a good example of that. Keeping it similar tones and shades, but its color is different. You can see there's just a little bit of yellow. And it turns that, like that purple, into a brown whenever you add a yellow. So purple and yellow, there's your brown. That's a little trick that you can use also with underpainting. If you're ever painting like real fine looking long grass or just grass in general, and you want it to be like a real nice warm brown, just put in your nice yellow as your undercoat. Paint the yellow first and then paint brown and just lift it up. That turns it, or paint purple, whatever shade or value of purple you want with the yellow, and then just lift it up. A little trick that I learned with one of my mentors. All right. Well, I'm going to pray for y'all, and then I'm going to call it for the night. And I appreciate y'all showing up, and I love y'all. And I don't really have anything else for y'all. God, thank you for the opportunity to paint with these people and show them everything that you've taught me, and even see the results of it through different artists and inspiring different people. Thank you that you've given me freely, and I'm freely to give. And I pray that the same things that I'm instilling in people, or trying to instill in people, that you would instill in them and have them instill in others and treat it like a wildfire. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. Be blessed. Have a wonderful night. And God bless. Bye.